I went kind of RPG crazy on this one. I love those. I didn't introduce. Hold on, Matt messed with my thing. So I started with the ASCII start screen.
Nice.
I found I ended up writing a lot of input loops because I wanted to validate all the input. So like this is the first example.
Yeah.
And I actually broke it up to make it easier into like 3, what do they call them in Python? Modules?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So there's a UI module that handles rendering everything that's just displayed on the screen. There's the main module which handles the business logic. And there's one that just has all the, it has objects that store like player, horse, and each race. So if you put in something invalid in here, like that's not an option, it'll say that's an invalid option. So right now I'm just going to start a new game by choosing one. And it does this little intro where it says, welcome to Wisher's Field, that's the name of the game. And it says you have $100 in your pocket and you can enter your name, so I'm just going to put in my name.
Oh my god.
And then it pulls this guy up, which it shows your stats up here, your name, how much money you have, how many races you've won and lost, how much cash you've won and lost. It generates a new race from the horse list and puts them in increasing odd orders. Like the odds of the race and the odds will determine how much you win, and it also affects the outcome of the race marginally. And then there's the bookie down here, and this is again one of the RPG elements where it's like the bookie asks you, what would you like to do? And you have a few different options. So you can bet on a horse or remove a bet, ask about a horse, which I like. So like if I click A to ask about a horse, he says, which horse do you want info on? And if I put something invalid here, he'll say, that don't make no sense. Choose a horse from 1 to 4. So I'm going to get information about the horse. Number 1, Stinky on the Mount. So Stinky on the Mount, number 2, and this horse was born in a puddle of gasoline. So they all have like descriptions and stuff like that. So I'm going to just place a couple of bets here. So I'm going to press B to bet. Which horse do you want to bet on? I'm going to bet on the one with the best odds. I'm going to put about $100 on him. So you'll see it increases the bet by $100 or removes 100 from your funds. And just to hedge my bets, I'm going to put like $200 on, horse number 2, stick a terrier on him. I'm going to put $200 on him. All right. So now you can click G to go watch the race, and it pulls up the race screen.
Sweet.
So because I broke this off into different modules, I was able to pull this module from the main screen and display it here, because this is the exact same data, right?
Right.
And this is just the horse panel, and this is the header, which is on every part of the game. It just says Wisher's
If you
Field.
scroll up, can you see previous?
Good question. Yeah, you can.
Does it draw everything?
Huh?
Does it always redraw a lot?
It does. It's just using the clear screen method. Yeah, pretty much.
So it's like a frame.
Yeah. And so it says press enter to begin the race once you've looked everything over. So it'll do on your mark, get set, go, and then they come out of the gate and they just start running across. And so the one with the best odds actually starts with an advantage, but there's a chance throughout the race that they'll get like second wins or they'll get winded. Okay. So sometimes like number 4 you see got a second win and he goes up ahead. So it gives you so it says, Lenny won the race, you did not bet on the winning horse, you bet $300 on losing horses, you lose all these bets. So when you get back to the screen, you can see you lost one race, your funds are at 700, your cash loss is at 300, and it's pulled up a new set of horses for the next race.
Awesome. That's great.
So if you want to save, you can press S to save. It'll just save the output, like one parameter per line in a file.
Nice.
And then you can quit. And then it says, thanks for playing Wisher's Fields, 1983, SJC Python Softworks, because it's kind of like... But just to show that it does in fact work, you can hit load game, and it pulls it up right where it left off.
So you're only able to save one game
Yeah.
at a time.
I wanted to do that.
That's terrible.
No, okay.
No, hey, I'm impressed.
So 20 minutes ago, I was scrambling through the NetHack style, like, it's saved to your name.save.
Oh, okay.
But I couldn't figure out how to, like, make a safe name cleanly enough. Because if you put in a bunch of weird characters, I could have hashed it.
Semicolon rm-rs //
You can do
That
a
was
single,
pretty-
you can do a single file. You can,
Awesome, dude.
That is really impressive. So, I would love to see it in fast motion. Like, so that, like, how are you handling, like, the timing after? Like, because it seemed like the horses still move kind of slow. I'd love to see him, like
I can, yeah, that's just
the pause.
it's like a
time.
sleep of, like,
half a second or a second.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, in testing I had it going almost instantly.
Yeah.
But you can see, like, just do a quick rundown of the code. So I have these 3 files. There's data.py, and you can see I have a horse, and he just has these properties: a name, age, description, odds, position, min speed, max speed. For those of you who know about objects, Python has no public-private concept whatsoever. So you have to so this is just a convention of putting underscores. Yeah. And so I just have a bunch of methods on each, like setting the odds, getting the position of each horse on the racetrack, which gets reset when you start a race. I have the player, which stores the basic player stats, like your money, all the stuff that's displayed at the top, and functions to manipulate those. And race, which is a more complicated one, which stores, like, the next race contains which horses, here are the bets that they've made, it's just a list that gets populated, and whether or not a race is currently running. And when you get down here, it gets... like, basically, running a race basically means calling start, which means you're setting the race to started, and calling advance after every animation, which just advances the horses by 1 step, by actually manipulating the horse objects, you know, by setting their position up more and more.
So you're setting their position physically on the screen and not...
On the horse. And then the UI object actually takes that to render the horse's position.
And are you just basically putting a bunch of spaces in between the starting gate and the...
Yeah, so
and the
I'm basically doing what you did, like I'm manually calculating. Well, I'm doing a combination actually of what you and Terry did, is that I'm calculating the number of spaces that are supposed to be before and after the horse, but then using that method to multiply the number of spaces out, you know?
Okay.
So you can see right here I do like... I print spaces times the number of spaces that are supposed to be before the horse's number, and then 71 minus the number of spaces that are supposed to be afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah. And so this file is all just like, you know, outputting this main screen. You can see it just puts in variables in certain places.
Okay.
So I just pass that in when I call it. And same thing with like the start screen. Same thing with like displaying the main gate and screen header. It shows your name, your race is won. And then the main loop. You can see I create all my horses here in a list. But in a given race, you know, like the race object actually stores only 4 horses that are in that race. But the main loop is right down here. So it shows the splash screen, which returns an option, which is 1, 2, or 3. Start a game, load a game, or run the game. And then based on that, it calls one of these methods, which just instantiates the player. All it does is it loads the player up with information. And then it creates a new race with 4 horses, and then loops on the main game screen, because it just needs to keep running on that until you quit. And that just branches off into a bunch of other stuff, like, where is it? Main game screen. So this says, this is where the bookie asks you, or you can see it actually displays all that data that's at the top, and this is where it actually asks you to, what's your option that you want to use, and then from there it just keeps branching off into different functions, and then the race itself, if I can find it. So basically, this is all of run race. So it displays on your mark, get set, go, and then it calls race start. And while race is running, advance it and display the race screen and wait a third of a second. So that's how the entire race is run. And the race model, or this race object, will actually turn race is running to false when a horse has completed the race. So, and then it just handles the rest. And that's
you're checking to see whether a horse is finished after every one step, right?
So I check to see if a horse his position on the board goes past 100. It's like percentage, 0 to 100%. But I check after every single horse is finished, because like 2 horses in a given round may pass the finish line, but whichever one went farthest is the one that won. That's how I do the calculation. And I actually use the odds to and I'll show you how I use the odds to determine like what the horse's speed is. It's a little function if I can find it. So basically, whenever you set the odds for a horse, like if a horse is 2 out of 2 to 1 odds, his minimum speed per turn is 1. So like you're trying to go from 1 to 100, right? So every frame he goes 1, and then the max speed is 2 plus 3 divided by their odds. So basically, if you have low odds of 2 or 3, you instantly go from your advancement every round is 1 to 2. But if your odds are higher than that, it gets lower and lower. So basically, the higher odds, the slower your max speed is.